Production funding for Arts Upload has been provided in part by the Francis Family Foundation and the Courtney S. Turner Foundation.
Hi, I'm Colin Laveau.
And I'm Angela Hagenbach here at the Columbia Art League Gallery.
Of course, this is a TV show like no other in town. It's Arts Upload. This week, coming up on the show, everything from artists, earth and sky,
to guitarist of the air, a fiddler out to meet her mentor, and a metalworker who uses her skills to make art.
Plus, my favorite fountain. It's all up ahead on the Upload.
Most of the time, smaller museums like the Nelson Atkins are on the receiving end of exhibits from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York.
But this time, things are going the other direction. Plains Indians artists of Earth and Sky, which Nelson co-created with Musée des Croix Brainlay in Paris, is actually going from Kansas City back to the Big Apple.
It's an epic exhibition featuring 137 objects spanning hundreds of years.
Some of them haven't been seen in this country for centuries. Nelson's curator of American Indian art, Gaylord Torrance, is the man who's brought it all together.
The first real exhibition of American Indian art that was shown with the intent of presenting it as the great sophisticated art that it is occurred in 1941 at the Museum of Modern Art. It's been only recently that the arts of Native peoples have been recognized much more broadly. One thing that I think distinguishes Plains art is that many of the objects were made by people that had adopted a fully nomadic way of life. So everything had to be portable. I think what makes this painting of the buffalo so important is that this artist was really trying to depict the moment of encounter when he really did see this spirit that came to him. The shield next to it that is so abstract is almost a pure representation of spiritual energy. This horse is remarkable in its elongated abstraction, the beautiful coloration that still exists, but most of all, the depiction of the horse itself in its last moments of life. It's clearly lunging, clearly falling to earth. By the turn of the 20th century, the meaning associated with headdresses became less about war and more about leadership.
The many ways a single form, like a headdress or pipe, might change over time is one of the threads that runs through the exhibition. And in the case of this masterwork, also reveals how tricky it can be when pieces have to cross continents.
The Fish and Wildlife laws prohibit travel of golden or bald eagle feathers outside the boundaries of the United States, so nothing with eagle feathers traveled to Europe. So this is, in a sense, the first complete version of this exhibition.
There might have been no exhibition had this man, Stéphane Martin, been less impressed by the Native American pieces that he saw in the Nelson Atkins permanent collection when he visited a few years back.
It was exactly the kind of balance between beauty of the pieces, knowledge about the culture who produced them, and before I met Gaylord, I said, well, that's the man I want to work with.
Thanks to French fur traders in the 18th and 19th centuries, Quai Branly now holds some of the oldest Plains Indians pieces in existence. Long story short, the two institutions agreed to pool their key assets and augment them with the best of the best from museums and collectors across the globe. Artists of Earth and Sky opened in April in Paris to largely glowing reviews.
You walked into that installation and just the sweep of the gallery approximated an abstraction of the Great Plains.
Here on the edge of the plains, those same objects are being displayed considerably differently, thanks in large part to the sweeping lines and vertical possibilities of Stephen Hall's block building.
Exhibitions that travel from different venues but are invested by different designers is like an orchestra playing with different conductors. It's the same score, but different conductors would bring different elements.
It's almost like a Shakespearean play. Every player has his moment at the head of the proscenium to do his soliloquy, and then he steps back.
What I like here is that there are more chances to walk around the pieces. A lot of those pieces were more frontally presented in Paris, so here you have more chance to see the back of them. I'm looking forward for the reaction of the people who are connected by their personal history to those pieces.
Indeed, Native American color guards and dancers, drummers and musicians helped welcome the exhibition back home. In Paris, the show actually started with works by contemporary artists. In Kansas City, they're not revealed until the end. Most spectacular among them, this modern take on a powwow dress that the curators spotted being worn by its maker in 2006.
For me, it is definitely an honoring of my grandmothers. Much like my ancestors, culture isn't static, and I put my own interpretations into the work itself, so it's not an exact replica, but it's my interpretation of what I think I am.
Gaylord Torrance wishes he could have 500 objects to help tell this story, but he's happy with the 137 that have been chosen. It does mean that collectors like Alan Hirschfield will have to get by without some of their favorite pieces for several years. But the former movie and music executive says it's been worth it to see them in such great company.
And I think this kind of exhibition that Gaylord has mounted will really change the way people think about these people. If they come in and look at their beautiful work and their cultural beliefs.
Those pieces really are, in my view, a prayer. And they're a concrete example that we were here. And we were here before Europeans, and we're gonna always be here.
I want to say that every aspect of this exhibition is being looked at by other scholars, by Native Americans, by other museum professionals. But the goal here was to show really the great continuum over time. And I don't know that that's been done.
Some things are so simple, they need no explanation. I mean, air guitar. What's there to say? Except the Kansas City Championships were held last summer. And it's a whole lot of fun to watch. John McGrath has the story for Arts Upload.
On one level, yes. It's a joke. We know we're not playing guitars. In fact, we're not trying to play guitar. We're not mimicking like we're playing guitar. We're playing the air guitar. It's a very different instrument. The air guitar gives you more freedom. When you watch somebody play the guitar, they are encumbered by what chords they're creating and where their fingers are supposed to be on the fret, but we don't have that. We have way more freedom than that. We can basically interpret the song as we see fit.
Thank you so much for coming to the Kansas City qualifier.
Basically, we're gonna have a first round tonight where everybody does 1 minute. They air guitar to a song that they've been working on for months. They're gonna have crazy costumes. They're gonna have whatever the hell else they bring here to entertain a crowd for 1 hot minute. So it's a pretty intense competition. We've got 20 people signed up, and these people have put a lot of work into their costumes and their routines. So I'm expecting nothing less than awesome tonight. Our defending Kansas City champion is Air Jesus, who is the savior of KC air guitar.
I'm the one to beat.
But he's gonna face a lot of stiff competition from Peter Stiff Dickens, who is a two-time U.S. air guitar national finalist. We have newcomers like Freddie Fingers, who was here last year, and this is his second year. We have Pork Sword, a perennial favorite. Last year we also had Crystal Richter, who changed her name to Cinderella.
It's definitely male-dominated, but it's not, they are not exclusive at all. Everybody, the air guitar community is very inclusive. We all root for each other, even though we're competing against each other. We talk with each other most of the year anyway, and we're always here to help each other, even with our routines. We'll look at each other's routines and give each other pointers.
So no gender bias here?
No, not at all. I mean, sometimes the guys might be jealous because we can rock sexy a little better than they can, but, you know, besides that, there's not really any gender bias. It's so much fun. You have to be able to let go of your shame if you're going to be competing on that stage.
Air guitar, you get a chance, everybody has a chance to release their inner golden god.
I've had several people come up to me after air guitar shows and say, that's the most fun I've had at a club in a long time. It's, you know, it's what it is, man. It's a live experience. You're never gonna understand it until you see it live.
Anybody out there remember the Wilders? They were a great old bluegrass band featuring a fiddler named Betsy Ellis up front.
Betsy is an accomplished musician, but like all of us, she knows there's still a lot to learn.
And the lady she learned a lot from is 97-year-old Violet Brumley.
Violet lives in Yellville, Arkansas, and the bond between these two fiddlers is the subject of our next story from producer-videographer Julie Denechet.
So we're gonna have a little Betsy Ellis goodness here.
Buffalo nickel.
Anybody that knows me knows that Violet Hensley is a really important person in my life. She's a 97-year-old fiddler from Arkansas. She's known as the Whittling Fiddler of Arkansas and has also been designated an Arkansas Living Treasure, but she's a treasure of the universe to me.
Oh, dear Ma, pin a rose on me. Two young men are looking at me. One is blind and the other can't see. Oh, dear Ma, pin a rose on me. I am Violet Hensley. I'm called the Whittling Fiddler because I've made 73 fiddles, made fiddles and played fiddle. I wanted to play the fiddle, I guess, because we didn't have anything else to do, but we didn't have television or radio, and Dad played it, and I guess it just struck me that I wanted to play. And I can't read, I'm not a musician. I just learned it, it's in my head. If I can't put it in my head, I can't put it on fiddle. When I was about a teenager, like, I could just about copy whatever I heard. That's the reason I learned it so well.
When I fell in love with fiddle music, I fell so hard, and I turned away from pretty much all other genres of music for years. And it was only a few years into that first flush of loving traditional fiddle music that I met Violet. And I hadn't spent too much time with elder generation players before that. I had met a few, had been really excited by some of those meetings and inspired by other Ozark fiddlers in particular, actually. But I didn't have that many inspirations who were female. And meeting Violet and this really strong lady who pretty much never met a stranger in her life. You know, that first meeting was so impactful, and she was so welcoming, and she cared enough to spend time with me if I asked her to play this section again. just trying to get that bowing. What is your bowing? Her little tricks, I used to call them. She was so patient and would spend this time with me as many times as I wanted. Go over it and go over it, and never got tired of taking that time to share those little special moments with me. And so how could I not have a lifelong friendship with her?
You know, I like this lady right here too. She's a great friend.
I love you, Violet. Absolutely. I feel like our friendship is one of my
We've been friends all of our life, but we didn't know it until we met about 10 years ago.
That's right.
This life will be o'er and I'll travel no more.
Learning a tune from Violet gives me the opportunity to see the whole picture, literally. I like to think of fiddle tunes as the melody, the notes come in the ears, and then the bowing comes in through the eyes.
Fill my way every day with love, love, love.
And so I can sit there and watch Violet and see the circles that she draws, the little handwriting as she calls it, with her wrist. And I can see how that has an impact on the overall tune.
Yeah, she's trying to make her copy my bow work. It just happens to be my arm's way of doing things. I developed that over the years of playing. Now, I used to play, my dad was kind of a stiff-arm fiddler, and he didn't get all the notes in there that I add to the tunes now. But now, she's good with that fiddle bow, too. She just has a different arm. I still going to teach her some more. And then back to the left on the D and G, it makes it go da dee do do da dee do do.
Well, Violet has her own approach to these tunes. Some of them are so unique that I've never heard the likes of them anywhere else. There are some tunes that come directly from her family.
Yeah.
You know, Violet and her existence and her example that she puts out everywhere, it's also a great reminder to appreciate those who have lived very different lives from our own, people who've lived longer than we have, and the multitude of lessons we can get from them. And whether it's, you know, how to get through some hard times or how to make really good cornbread, they're all really important lessons.
You and me, little brown jug, I love thee. Ha ha ha, you and me, little brown jug, don't I love thee? I don't know if I've ever heard you do the hiccup part of it before.
That's the way drunks do.
I love to see her get so giggly when she's playing a tune like that. But then there's certain ones, you know, that like Boil Them Cabbage Down or Sally Gooden. Those tunes are also ones where it's well known that she will probably take the tempo up to an unmanageable place, that unmanageable for everyone except for her. But in the case of this concert, I decided I wasn't going to give up, and I think I was almost there with her.
The most notable features in Kansas City are its fountains.
It's the start of a new series here on Upload where we revel in their beauty and look at the impact they have on people. It's called My Favorite Fountain.
We're at a Volker fountain. This place is tranquil to me because it takes me back. Right now, you come here, start painting now in 2014. It's not very long before you are not in 2014 anymore. I've been stopping here for a long time, probably since the very early 70s. Great memories back here. Volker Park, you know, that's what we thought of it, Volker Park. The fountains at Volker Park. It was like Kansas City's own little version of Woodstock. I thought it was the Kansas City culture place. There's a lot of fun, a lot of beautiful people, a lot of everything happening, everything from Moonies, Hare Krishna to occasional police. It's actually a great looking fountain, kind of spread out a little bit, but it's a beautiful thing to paint. Looking for something using the fountain in the foreground and a couple of juxtapositioning it with the Nelson in the background. There are a lot nicer fountains in the city. I mean, the J.C. Nichols fountain's probably the most, you know, unique, elaborate things around, but it doesn't have the memories. It's very nice, and it's tranquil.
From time to time, videographer Dave Burkhart will be showing you Kansas Cityans' favorite fountains.
As we finish this edition of Arts Upload, we're going to take a look at a metal worker who makes some pretty interesting art.
If you've seen artwork by Joey Los, typically large pieces of painted metal, you might imagine a beefy welder chomping his cigar. But in fact, this Joey is not at all what one might expect.
Yeah, and they think they're expecting to meet probably a man. And a lot of people that have come to welded steel sculptures come more from the welding background, where they've been metal fabricators, and then they later get into making sculptures with their work.
This is Joey Los, former organic farmer turned metal sculptor.
But I started as an art student and then later got into making welded steel sculptures. My dad had sold welding supplies, and I was an organic vegetable farmer for some time, and so that's kind of what brought me into the welding. I thought, well, we're taking all these things to get them repaired. I might as well try and learn it myself. Even though I had been hesitant, I'll go ahead and give it a try. And I found I really, really liked it, and it wasn't as difficult as I thought.
From insects and mythical creatures to allegorical figures, Los has work all over mid-Missouri, from Columbia to Herman and in between.
Well, in the Herman area, I have work on public display at the Herman Hill Wedding Chapel, at the Herman Hospital, and most recently at the Amtrak train station. So that was pretty exciting to have a public commission at the train station. And in the Columbia area, I have several pieces around. I've been represented by Blue Stem Gallery of Missouri Crafts for about 18 years now, as long as I've been doing the welded steel sculptures. So I have pieces in Boone County Regional Hospital, at the Landmarks Bank, Calvary Episcopalian Church, and the University of Missouri. I love working with metal because it's very direct and instant gratification, and it's durable, so my sculptures are going to be around a lot longer than I am. I do a lot of painted pieces that protects the metal from corroding, and I think that's kind of my niche in the metal sculpture area, because you see a lot of people that make metal sculptures from scrap metal and they just put the pieces together, and that's nice. I started out doing that too, but then I found out paint really adds a lot to them. So I do a lot of painted pieces.
Of course, working with huge hunks of metal can be a challenge, and not just artistically.
And there are some engineering problems, especially with the bigger pieces. So I've had the good opportunity on a couple of occasions to actually work with metal fabricators and professional metal workers and engineers to do some much, much bigger pieces that I couldn't really do on my own, because there are some engineering difficulties that you have to assess for some pieces, and especially with like how they will stand up, you know, whether it's going to be a heavy enough base for the amount of mass you have on top.
For her next set of works, Los is looking forward to telling stories.
I'm interested in doing a lot more like narrative pieces, similar to this piece you see behind me, that are actually like kind of telling a whole story, or they're figures that really tell a story about themselves, you know, so you can look at it and kind of get an idea of, oh, what's the story behind that, or it's really telling you something. So one of my favorite things to do is like a commission piece, where you'll tell me you have an idea for a sculpture, and then I put some drawings on paper and get back to you and see if this is kind of what you were thinking, and then I get the opportunity to kind of take your idea and your story and make it in steel. So that's been really fun, and I think some of my most interesting and exciting projects have come about because of collaborations with my clients.
That's all the time we have this week for our show. Next week, we're going to take a look at some sleek, modern furniture by David Polivka.
Also, Moondrop Circus will dazzle you with aerial delights. And we'll go to the Stevens College campus to check out the Citizen Jane Film Institute.
Our show is Arts Upload. I'm Colin Laveau.
And I'm Angela Hagenbach. Thanks for watching.
Production funding for Arts Upload has been provided in part by the Francis Family Foundation and the Courtney S. Turner Foundation.